Hi, I wanted to do a super casual video talking about the 5 critical things that people do that keep them stuck or that they shouldn't do after having a relationship with a narcissist. And what shows up in my work, and this is inspired by my post that one of my clients who came to me with like a 2 out of 10 self-worth, and there's an important reason why I get someone to identify where they're at emotionally. 2 out of 10, 1 out of 10, 0 out of 10, 10 out of 10 is because this is the masculine structure that helps to ground in what their emotional landscape is. And this is about making the intangible tangible by speaking to it. So in the post I made about this woman that came to me with a 2 out of 10, just being completely taken for granted in this relationship, showered with compliments, given all the praise. He made her feel really special. And then, as narcissists tend to do, the thoroughbred narcissists, is, they chip away at your identity. So then you become dependent on them for their support and their praise, etc., etc. So while this is casual, I'm drinking my protein shake here, and I'll most likely do like a bit of a call to action at the end. Like if you're keen, like I do have some options. It won't be like a salesman-y type speech. It's just going to be super casual. So hey, like I've got something. I can help you sort this out. Like, do you want it? So first of all, the first thing what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to do some screen sharing in this to make it a little bit more interesting, I think, just to get you some idea about what kind of stuff's out there and how people do get stuck in these loops. And you're about to see my screen go infinite. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, and infinite screen. All right, cool. So come over here into Facebook. Now, the first thing that people do, and I'm going to go 5 points like I mentioned, is that they tend to join like a narcissist recovery group. And if I just jump onto Facebook alone, um, narcissist survivor. Let's try that one. Actually, just do narcissist. And like you'll see all these groups. Let's pull up groups specifically. Right? Like 10 posts a day, 105,000 people, 72,000 people, 41,000, 44,000. Avoiding toxic relationships and exposed narcissistic whatever. Right? And I've got friends that are in some of these groups. And what you'll find was 103,000 one there. Where'd that go? Yeah. Well, what ends up happening in these groups, narcissistic relationships, is that you're surrounded by people who keep on reinforcing this concept of being stuck with a narcissist, and there can be this real kink in staying with a narcissist or being around other people who have been in relationships with narcissists, because you kind of loosh, you kind of get off on the emotional. This happened to me. Yeah, this happened to me too. Like, watch out. And I've been in these groups, and the advice that people give is so mainstream, so mainstream. And what they don't touch on is the armoring. Like the you need to de-armor the body and find your core self. So you can only get with a narcissist, most likely, your statistics of being with a narcissist increase the less you know yourself and the lower your self-worth is. And on the outside, you might appear altogether, but if you're wearing a mask, the narcissist can somehow detect that you're not being your truest self, or you'll have a low self-worth. So they give you the compliments that help prop that up. They become the parents that you never had, the truthful parents that would give you the compliments or nurturing to bring your true self out into the world. So the first part is, don't join one of these narc groups. For the love of God, don't join them. They are a portal to hell. just quietly. Now, the second thing is don't do mainstream therapy. Now, like I know a lot of my friends and they see Gottman and they do Gottman stuff or they do holistic psychiatry, the holistic psychiatrist stuff or um, um, all the mainstream stuff. Okay. And Gottman does have some cool tips. All right. Go and check them out. Right. What I also find is that they still refer to people in these intellectual brackets, like intellectual buckets. For example, it's a guide to a successful relationship, the introverts edition. Like introversion can be and usually is some form of survival pattern, right? And a lot of my work involves looking at your safety and survival patterns, like what got you to today, the survival patterns that got you to today aren't going to help you moving forward. And introverts in particular are really susceptible to narcissists because you haven't dealt with the core injuries, the core parts of you. And introverts are also the most likely to get stuck in inner work. By doubling over um, the holistic psychologist. Like again, she has great work. Like there's stuff in there, and if you need that kind of work, same with Gottman and anybody else, the Queen's Code or all the mainstream stuff. Alison Armstrong. Then you need it. Then you do it. If your heart feels called to go and do it, then go and do it. But what also shows up here is she's got all these tips on how to do a thing, like how to quickly stop anxiety. But sometimes when you're with a narcissistic person, the anxiety can be conflated with excitement and you forget all of these things, right? And she's got lots of tips and things on how to do stuff like yeah, just all but again, don't get stuck here. Like you just gotta feel into her. Like you feel into her, all right? If she's someone that you want to work with, then go work with her. Or try it out and see what plays out for you. But I can tell you the work is limited. It will not get you the depth of what you want to get to because even she herself is not who she really is, right? She's still struggling with her own stuff. And it's why her content speaks to so many people. Like this thing, for example, how to co-regulate your nervous system. I've got clients that have sat with a narcissistic partner who knows how to perform all this stuff. They know how to perform. They can do all the things. They know how to speak spiritual. They just know all this kind of stuff, right? And you get stuck in relationships with those people and you just end up getting tortured because you don't have your own internal grounding. And that requires you de-armoring your body and accessing a primal part of you to help move through all the blockages that have created some of these survival patterns. So, two, the critical thing not to do is stick with mainstream therapy. It'll keep you stuck there. It's all theory, very little embodiment. The third thing is keeping your heart closed. And what I see people doing is, I love languages. Let's do that one. That's great. So people try and connect to their heart. The third point is keeping your heart closed. So you try and force it open by learning the love languages and doing all these other things like affirmations or staring at yourself in the mirror and trying to reaffirm that, oh no, I'm a real person and I love myself. Sure. But underneath all of that, your heart is still closed. Right. And love languages, while they can be helpful up until a point, you hit a ceiling. You hit a ceiling and you can't go any further than that because you're capped at these love languages. So you start looking for people that have the same love languages that can reciprocate. The core injury is missed because that's what you end up focusing on. The next thing, point 4, is not taking ownership. And back to these narcissist and shadow work groups as well. people get so obsessed with the shadow work groups by thinking that doing shadow work is the thing to do. So you take too much ownership and you don't allow the faculty for some people just to be genuinely evil, and or you continuously berate and blame yourself that it's all your fault. There's a thin line here, and if you haven't got that connection to your core self, then you'll be penduluming, swinging between this part of you that wants to outsource your authority versus taking too much authority. And there's a fine balance here, and if you don't know how to swing between them constructively, you won't know how to use your anger to help push through these blocks, like I mentioned before. So when you learn how to take ownership of your life in a genuine way, not an intellectual way, then it gives you an inbuilt self-worth that repels narcissistic people. It's innate, it's built in. And then the fifth point here, which actually, the first thing before I do that, I'll just jump in and show you like how I help people through this. Otherwise, you might be a bit lost. Well, how do I do this, John? Well, I'll just pull up something. This one. So, like, part of my model is like, well, I help you de-armor, repattern, and sort out your lower self. And your lower self contains a potent primalistic energy that can be used to push through your blocks. So if you're someone who gets stuck on mainstream therapy, also this woman that came to see me, she'd done hypnosis, she'd done breath work, she'd done sound baths, she'd sat some plant medicine, but she couldn't integrate it all. And in order to integrate it all, you need to know how to use the lower self, how to repattern the body using the energy from the lower self, and then de-armoring all simultaneously. If you can't do those steps, you're not going to be able to connect to the core self, which impacts your relationships, which impacts your purpose, which impacts like your lifestyle. It's all intertwined. And if you can't connect to the most truest version of yourself, then your instinct is off. And you can't speak your truth because you're held back, or you hold in who you really are at the core, which is a food source for narcissists. And while this might sound really complicated, it isn't. It's actually a really simple process to take you through. I can do it in under 16 weeks to get a breakthrough for most people, and then longer if you really want to transform more areas of your life. But back to the fifth point here, it's you stay injured, right? You stay injured, and then you assume that this is your life. Like, you just assume that, oh, I'm not going to be able to have the life that I want. So you end up just staying where you are. You end up resigned. And then there's a part of you that I'm going to stop sharing my screen there. There's a part of you that you keep coming back to the thought and the dream of, oh, maybe I should open my heart again, but I don't want to get to a relationship with another narcissist. You start doing a little bit of work, but then the actual commitment time comes. Someone pops up on your radar that's really exciting or really interesting that you want to talk to. Oh, could be another narcissist. Oh, they're giving me compliments. This is what happened last time. Maybe you really enjoy sex, and you're afraid that as soon as you open yourself up like that, that they're going to take advantage of you. And it's possible that can happen. I mean, the bonding period after orgasm is different between men and women. But in all of this, there's those 5 critical points of what not to do after being in a narcissistic relationship. The most important one, I think, is just assuming that that's how your life is going to be. So I'm going to forever attracting narcissists for the rest of my life. If you keep on holding on to that that point of view, or that limiting, sabotaging belief, then you'll stay in those narcissistic groups. You'll just stick with the mainstream therapy. You'll keep your heart closed. You'll not take the correct amount of ownership in your life. And you just be lonely. You just be lonely, and then be surrounded by people that keep on reminding you of how alone you are because you're disconnected from yourself. So hopefully this has been useful to you. And, I've got solutions. I've got solutions if you want them, to help sort this out. So you stop attracting narcissistic people, and you become connected to your core self, which amplifies your soul purpose, gives you a voice for your truth, and you feel deeply grounded and integrated from your inner work, instead of feeling fragmented, lost, or alone. Mad love. Bye.